Welcome to the DevReady Podcast, where we're helping non-techs build better tech. Today we're joined by Mark McCormack. He is a musician, technologist, and someone that's been in the startup world for quite a while, has exits in the past, and just really had a good conversation with him on the phone a couple of times and just wanted to share his journey to the community. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here. What's that radio saying? Long time listener, first time caller.
I like to hear that.
Good to hear.
Yeah, it is. Mark, tell us a bit about you, mate. So, what's your background? Where did it all start for you in terms of obviously technology, and how you sort of went about into the startup space and working on your own products, really?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me today. And I don't know, I hope I can add some value in some way. I guess my first computer was in 1982. We were sort of talking a bit about this before the call, and it was a TRS-80 from Radio Shack or Tandy Electronics. And for 16 kilobytes of memory, it cost me about $800 Australian back then. And this is like 1982. So, wow. But it was cool. It was like, wow, I can type on this keyboard and stuff happens, and you can automate stuff and you can make stuff move. And it was like, wow, it was sort of changed my whole way of viewing the world.
Revolutionary back then, it would have been, yeah. So seeing things at that age in the technology piece. Now I think we're spoilt. The young kids of today just see it everywhere, so that's just normal,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's like, it's sort of like that sort of, machine language versus, a high level sort of, draw a picture with Canva or something. It's back then it was it was really nuts and bolts, sort of hardcore chips and all sorts of stuff. So it's exciting to sort of have that real logic and logic gates, NAND and NOR gates sort of foundation for me. And I did computer science in VCE or HSC. But I think my first entrepreneurial journey was a thing called Young Achievers or Junior Achievers, which is a program you do in school when you start a business. And you sell shares to your family and friends and say, we're starting this company. There was actually sort of a separate legislation sort of done around these particular shares. It was, I think, Young Achievers, it was all sort of rolled up under ASIC, but because it's about, commerce and good business, sort of at that time, they sort of, put some special laws in place. But you'd sell shares to your family and friends, and you create a product. There was like 20 of us, about 10 of us guys from, the Catholic boys' school out in the eastern suburbs, and 10 from the high school. And after we sort of got over the private school versus the high school sort of argy-bargy, then we sort of got down to sort of, collaborating and creating product. And long story short, we did personalised doormats. You could get whatever you want on your doormat,
So started very early. How old are you at this time?
Oh, this was like, you could do it when you're like 16, 17 at high school.
Yeah, okay. Right. All right. Yeah, that's an interesting concept. Yeah.
It's called Junior Achievers. It's in, I think it's still in about, 500 schools around Australia every year, and even universities as well.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it at all. It'd be interesting to understand a bit more, actually. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. So that was sort of, I guess, my first foray into it. I was the marketing director. I sort of, got on the phone at 3AW and got an interview in there, got us on, not Bert Newton's show. It was like a morning sort of show on Channel 10. And they came out and did an interview with us. I mean, shit, this is cool. And, my mum's at home and the phone's ringing off the hook. And she, look, let me just take your number and we'll call you back by the end of the day. It's like, and so it was like crazy, but it was really fun. To really sort of finish that sort of story, there was a national competition. There was, there would have been about 10 or 20,000 students involved in, the Young Achievers program that year. And I ended up getting runner-up in Australia. So they sent 4 of us to America when you're 17 to attend the World Young Achievers Convention in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Well, that would have been a great experience into this space, and hence why you continue to follow it through, I would imagine.
Correct. As stupid as I am sometimes to, be an entrepreneur like us all. But Yeah, so that was, like the top 17-year-old business minds from around America. You've got, I just can't describe it. Some of these people would be in Congress now and stuff like that. Some just really high performers. And it was from a raft of sort of, parts of society and backgrounds, whatever. But it was intense. It was computer simulations. There was pitch nights. There was, anyway, came back, started year 12, and it was like, geez, the world's a different place. So that's where I
would have opened up your horizons a little bit back then, wouldn't it?
Correct, mate.
Would have changed things a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think an experience like that would be, something you never forget as well. Do you have any people you met back then that you still keep in contact with, or not at all, really?
There's a girl called Martha Brandt. She was, she was a great girl. And, like she's married now. That's sort of one of them. But yeah, it's
nice.
Yeah, I remember.
So that moved into coming back into Melbourne. Not Melbourne. You're Sydney based, yeah?
I'm Brisbane based now, but grew up in Melbourne.
Brisbane based.
Grew
up in Melbourne. Okay. Yep. So you've been around Australia a little bit.
Yes.
So come back to Melbourne, heading into year 11, 12. After that experience, what were you thinking then?
I was thinking how the world, or generally, and also Australia in particular, that their attitude towards risk and entrepreneurship wasn't the same as mine. And not even my parents, my parents were pretty conservative, Irish, Italian, Catholic, 9 kids. I got 4 brothers and sisters,
Irish Italian family. Oh, there you go.
Sounds like a gangster movie.
Goodfellas, have a pint of Guinness. Sit down. My sort of attitude and values didn't align, and it was like, geez, it was sort of hard. And I had, there was a few sort of mentors that I had. There was a girl who went to my sister's school. Her father was an entrepreneur and imported computer chessboards, and it was just sort of hard to find that attitude after you've had that education or been, exposed to that sort of thinking.
And it's changed a lot now, right? Look, in the current climate, there's a lot more people trying to do their own thing. But back then, what year would this have been, Mark, roughly?
82,
when you started exiting out of high school?
Yeah, 88.
88, yeah. So it would have been that. Not many people doing their own thing, right? A lot of people just go to school, get a job. That's a majority. But now dynamics have changed a little bit.
Computers hadn't been commoditized, and where it's easier for everyone to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's right. Doesn't mean it's easier to start. It doesn't mean it's easier to succeed, but that's a different conversation.
That's true. That's true. If I think what Anthony's saying is, the sort of democratization and connecting of the internet to markets and people has been a massive game changer. Yeah,
it has. Yeah, huge.
Yeah.
So you were in 1998, the huge tolerance to risk, looking to do different things in business, but maybe not many people around you to support you, a bit of a couple of mentors.
Yeah.
What did that mean coming out of uni? Or out of school? Did you go work for someone, or did you try and do your own thing after that again?
What did I do? I was kicking around in a cover band, doing anything.
As you do. You sound like a creative type of guy, so music makes sense.
Yeah. And there's a great Plato quote about art and music, which I might finish with if it makes sense. So I'm kicking around in a cover band, since I was 16 at school, and we're sort of going nowhere, but we were doing, it was fun, and so my first job out of high school was working in TV post production. So I was just start off as sort of the lowest rung in the library, bringing out tapes for the editors and general sort of gopher sort of thing. And then there was a recession. So after about a year, I got retrenched. So it was really disappointing.
89, yeah.
About 89, yeah. And my mum said, get off the beanbag. I found a job for you to apply for. I was devastated. I wanted to be in TV, post production, and it was like Jesus. So Anyway, I applied for this job, Fowlerware or Fowler bathroom products, taps, toilets like Coroma and Dorf. And I thought, this is all a bit below me as a sort of, semi sort of techie, audio sort of dude. And, but it was fantastic. At the time of my life, it taught me how to talk on the phone. I was doing internal sales, we're going to the pub with Debbie from Reese Clayton and, guys and girls from the other side of town. And it was like really social, bang, 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 like sort of sales. And I was like, wow. So my cover band got a couple of gigs and it was like, wow. And because I was on the phone, I was hustling the agents and the pubs and sort of had that sort of sales gift to the gab. And so
that helped with the music career then.
Yeah.
Sales is important in all careers, really.
Correct. There's that saying, what's that saying about sales? Nothing happens in the world till something's sold. Whether it's, you and I or you convincing me to be on the podcast and vice versa. And, and it's not such a bad thing. If the products or whatever you're selling is, crap, then, ultimately it sort of comes back to bite you. But
it does. Yeah, but it all starts from there. And when you're starting out a business, not many people think about how they're going to commercialize. They might, especially if you're looking at, we're trying to help non-techs build tech, really, and tech businesses, right? They may have a bit more background or domain knowledge around an industry, but maybe they've been in corporate and they're not really privy to the sale or what that really means to sell a market product, because it's a whole different world and the psychology behind that and how you present yourself, and that's a learnt skill. It's not something that some people maybe can just get up and go, but a lot of people need to learn that over time and just establish that skill, because it is a skill. And I think it's definitely a good place to start if you want to go into a career of business, for sure.
No, and I think that's one of the first things we talked about was how you sit your business in the market and help those, people, protected on the, 43rd floor of Collins Street in BHP and, 140 grand a year. And then they hit the pavement, they got to pay 40, 50 grand out of their own pocket. And, it's, there's not all those procurement processes in place and checks and balances.
It's very different when it's their money.
The guy at the Quickie Mart says, yes, my brother is a programmer. He can do it. What have you been quoted? 20,000? No, 2,000. Come on. Well, whatever the sort of, comical scenario is, because they're sort of like babes in the woods, and for you to actually focus your business this is what I was impressed about, focus your business in a really pragmatic and learning sort of process. And I was sort of one of them as well, and it's just it's your vista, it's your view of the world. And, you sold me on that. It was like, wow, cool. It's what the world.
We're all going to stand for something. And, that whole thing around someone starting off, if there's a lot of things that can go wrong in the tech space, and being in tech, you understand that. But just opening up people's minds to what to think about, because if they've never been down a journey, it's difficult to know what the next step is, right? So there's something like this conversation opens up things for people to think about. So that's why we're here. That's why we do it. And I love doing it, just having a chat to anybody around their experiences and what's worked for them, what hasn't.
Yeah, no, totally. You can learn something from almost anyone, you sort of meet.
Correct.
Very
agree.
True.
Yes, agree. So you're working for a plumbing company, selling. How did that venture into software? Because this is the story about you moved into software development and things like that at some point, didn't you? So how did that transition?
Yeah. My actual music career sort of took off in a reasonable way. And that cover band, that we were playing in high school, we ended up playing 5 nights a week. I'm 21 years old. Oh. We're playing to like 7,000 people, man. From
wow.
Well,
Kramer's in Preston.
It's not a normal story. Yeah.
Kramer's in Preston to there was a club at the Essendon Airport called Flight Deck, to Moorabbin, to Relgan. And so it was like I got the sack. I was coming in hungover. 3 days a week. And I was like, oh, Mark, No, you've done...
Enjoying yourself a little bit too much.
Sorry, what was that?
Enjoying yourself a little bit too much, but
yeah, you're 21, why not, huh? And
exactly.
Yeah, and my boss said, "You've done it now," and I said, "Yeah," and I think it's a family friendly recording. I told him to stick it up his jumper and gave him a nice little signal and walked out the door. And to me, that was a badge. It was sad, but it was also a badge to go, wow, you know what, this music thing I've been sort of toying around with. Now we're playing 5 nights a week and turning over almost $1 million in our best year as 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds, and in like 20 years ago money. So that was pretty good. So anyway, so had a music career there, did a musical at the Princess Theatre in Melbourne. Then I went to London, did a musical in London, and sang on a cruise ship.
Singer, yeah?
Yeah, singer, man. Yeah. And spin a few plates, play the spoons, piano accordion.
What sort of music was it?
What was that?
What sort of music were you covering?
Oh, look, anything at the time from in the covers band, Van Halen to Nirvana to Noiseworks, Aussie stuff, to some funk, James Brown.
Okay, cool.
No, but it really
a lot of variety
cool.
too.
Yeah, it was sort of a party band with a bit of a sort of edge, and at the time, which is pretty cool. So did professional music theatre at the Princess in Melbourne and on the West End as well. And then I sang on a cruise ship out of Miami, when my baby smiles at me. And then I'm like the sort of dude with the microphone, I'm dipping girls, all sorts of crazy stuff. It was a cool life for on the ship about 6 months. And so I came back to Australia and like I'm sort of late 20s and I go, Jesus, I've had a good run.
What now?
what now? But it's like I knew, still knew a lot of actors and singers and musos, and it's like, Jesus, do I want to be an out of work actor at 30 or singer actor at 30, or 40? Jesus, and look, some guys I knew really talented had been on Neighbours, TV commercials, films, whatever. He's happy, he's sort of around 40, but his wife's a nurse, and he was just, it's a really passionate and creative and talented. But it's if you talk about being a unicorn in startup world, being a unicorn or having even just sort of variety, mild success in entertainment is like a whole nother ballgame. And
I think it's a lot harder, isn't it? Yeah, it's very.
No, it's
especially being in Australia too. I think it's even more challenging because you have to stay in the US really if you're going to get anywhere. Yeah, really big.
Yeah, totally. But there's 10 times more people doing it as well.
Correct.
So but yeah,
these days maybe not.
Sorry.
I'll say these days maybe not. There's probably 10 times more trying to do their tech startup or app ideas.
So what was I going to say?
So you came back to Oz. You were sort of didn't want to move into the Neighbours of the world, and what did you think? Start again? What was the thinking there? Tech was obviously something you loved. Had some passion towards.
That was exactly it, man. That was sort of the turning point, sort of in my career. I thought, well, if I don't really want to, go all in on the sort of rock singing career. I'm over 25, 25 is the sweet spot for, a young male pop star, whether you're Justin Bieber or whatever, and so it was like, okay, well, I did computer science in HSC, and so I bought a computer, and then because the internet came along, commercial internet, I'm going, Jesus, this is going to change the world. So, that was when I made the move, started a computer science degree at Swinburne, started working for a startup in the analytics space, just as a junior dev, then a bit of business development. And so that was the real pivot and shift.
And that would have been a big shift, but also some BD in that, so software and a bit of BD still, because, that makes sense, because it's the background there. Having a bit of BD background, it makes sense.
Being personable.
being personable in a startup's important, especially a tech one, because sometimes they're not very personable.
Correct. You got you've got Urkel over in the corner there. Thumping away.
Some programmers are a different breed.
Yeah,
they can be.
How do I speak to the blonde in accounts, Mark? Well, just say hello.
Well, yes.
And yeah.
So it's been a few years in there, and then what sparked the first, all right, I'm going to do this on my own and go out and do something for myself?
Yeah. Well, the first company I worked for, and this is just a little bit of an interesting story, they were called Red Sheriff, and a guy I was studying with, when I used to do one particular night class, he said, yeah, I'm working for this internet startup, and we're doing a Java class. And I said, oh, yeah, what is it? He goes, oh, we're sort of market research, analytics sort of stuff. I go, what's that? And then we just sort of got talking. After a few weeks, he goes, I've had a chat to my boss, and we might have a job going. And I go, yeah, get me in there. And we really abridged story. We were the pioneers in JavaScript tagging, like Google tags and double-click tags and all that sort of stuff. We were the very first in the world out of Melbourne to pioneer this stuff. And it was some Java applets, some CGI calls, sort of like, 1x1 pixel sort of stuff, And we brought on clients like Telstra, 9MSN, Car Sales, Seek, like the Bassett boys. We still communicate sometimes online. And if we're at an event, it's like, hey, Mark. And it's like, wow, yeah, look at my pocket compared to yours, Andrew, huh? How about you shout some kosher wine? Get out of here.
Yes.
But
so it was pretty big back then. Yeah, it was a good opportunity in the late 90s, right? To crack and pioneer some new things. And there's also opportunity now around us. But
everything was new.
Yeah, everything was very new, and that's where the whole internet bubble blew up, and all this sort of stuff going on with everyone raising big money off the back of an idea, off a napkin, really, and anything in IT. And that's what's happening now in the blockchain world. Similar thing, but so it's just repeating itself, right?
Yeah, it's any sort of boom, any market sort of cycle. Whether it's what was that the tulip bulb sort of things to tech to whatever, or fickle markets and society tend to follow the same.
So it would have been exciting being in that sort of startup world, growing quickly, evolving, and pioneering something new,
being innovative.
Yeah, it was, but it was still hard. It was like 4 or 5 of us, and I'm on the phone to some big finance brands and stuff. And it's like, why do we need to measure this thing called a website? And I said, well, let me tell you, Neil, this is probably...
So it's a lot of education, right?
Yeah, it was that
especially.
Yeah, it's that pioneering education phase, like any product sort of goes through. And, there's so many stories I could tell you there, but it was fun, and but we were pioneers, and we were our competitors were like the Sinewave Interactive or the Hitwise guys that were around for a number of years, that sold out for $300 million to a UK company called Experian about
Experian,
8 years ago, and I was talking to Andrew Giles the other day about one of the businesses that I'm starting. So those sort of that sort of history and tenure, and if you're still a good guy at the end of the day and you try your best, then people still have the time for you. Anyway, so
on that note, education's a big part of anything new, especially if you're at least trying to do something different or shake the industry up. And something that people think about is how you educate your customers, because sometimes putting in something new in front of people, it takes a while to actually get what you're up to, and that journey can take some time. So it's important for people to realize that, yes, if I just build a product and show people, they're not going to probably buy it right day one, and they might not even understand it day one. So it is something you want to be thinking about when you're building a business, and how you educate and bring your customers on that journey too.
No, I agree. It's whether it's your vision or the vision of your product, and how it solves problems and saves time and money and pain, then and this is why it's better than the others. And it's you're evangelizing. You're evangelizing sort of your vision. And you're right. You've got to bring your staff along, and so I agree.
So you were there for a couple of years, and then you went into ISP Match. Tell me about ISP Match.
Yeah, well, I left Red Sheriff because, like you were saying about evangelizing, sort of, analytics, sort of measuring web pages, I don't know, it wasn't that exciting. We were like doing some UX studies and stuff like that. But we raised $1.5 million off a venture capital firm at the time, which was in that sort of, late 90s. There was still a very old guard, conservative financial sort of, sort of stiff suits and stuff, and it wasn't the the Blackbird or Airtree's Ventures sort of vibe today, where they're really a partner. It was like, if you don't make these revenue targets, then we have a ratchet that takes, they were just sort of like a sort of a more sophisticated bank who could understand these types of investments. So we got $1.5 million, and so things were all starting to grow, but I exited because I wanted to do my own thing. And I was going to tell you a story about how we almost hired a stripper as our receptionist when we raised the money. We're out sort of having drinks or whatever, and sort of guys in our 20s or 30s. Yeah, look, we could give you a job. And it's like, Andrew.
That's to do what? Yes, exactly.
Well, yeah.
How many drinks was that after, mate?
Oh, exactly. A few, man. A few. So I exited that because it just wasn't really exciting me. And like you were saying, it was fertile stuff at the time. And there's often the with your, even like in later businesses that I had, sort of my vision versus someone really ambitious and creative and gung-ho who really wants to do his own thing. So it's almost like if you don't identify that, I think in an employee sort of early, they can get disgruntled or competitive or bitter or steal some IP. So you either support them or what have you. So that's like a different sort of dynamic.
So on that one there, what were some of the key learnings for you? So obviously went through a raise, investors' money. What was that experience like, just running a business for a few years that was really about starting something new, investors' money in, seeding? How was that experience for you?
Yeah, with Red Sheriff, I was really like a small player. There was only like 5 or 6 of us. That's probably not the best example to use. So I started ISP Match after I left Red Sheriff. I was sort of, took a bit of time off and sort of in my bedroom, and I thought this could be an interesting space. Just that whole sort of marketplace, it's like iSelect or Compare the Market before they sort of existed. And it was just in this little sort of niche, called internet service providers. And so I really just spent my own money on that, and went up to an event in Sydney, got some T-shirts printed. I think on the back of it was like it was like our logo on the front, ISP Match, and on the back it was our sustainable competitive advantage. It was like my whole shirt was a pitch,
Pitch on your back.
Yeah, exactly. And it worked. It worked a bit, and it was sort of, when was this? I don't know, maybe 2000 something, early 2000. And can't even remember the event in Sydney, but it was that sort of early days of communities forming, beyond, your business at home and the venture capitalists and stuff. And it was the guys, it was an SMS company that ended up doing really well. They were like the sort of pitching on the night. The Aussie guys. Anyway. So yeah.
So like a SMS marketing type thing.
Yeah, it was like it wasn't Informatel. It was another sort of guys. They ended up with offices in California and stuff like that. And
okay.
So anyway, I got on planes to Sydney and signed up, Aussie Mail and Netspace and some of the sort of big names at the time. And it was really just me and my developer. And, it was sort of a nice sort of looking website and, pretty simple model. And And then we sort of did deals with Australian Net Mag at the time, which was sort of like, PC Mag, but for sort of specialising on the internet and sites and all sorts of stuff. And yeah, we charged them, 2 months, subscription. So, so it was about, say $60 at the time. So if we bought you a customer, $60, I select charges. If you're a health insurer, I select charges you between $600 and $700 to give you a health insurance policy.
Like a couple of months of health insurance. Could be more, actually.
Yeah. Because they've worked out, like, all the actuaries have worked out, how long they keep them for and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, because they'll probably stay there for a long time, so they can just justify, we'll take 3 months of this subscription or type thing.
Yeah.
And they'll be around for an average of 5 years, 10 years, who knows how long. So, yeah, you can justify it then. Yeah, it makes sense.
And then they send out a yearly email saying, are you ready to make the change? Have you checked your provider?
They want you to move because they get paid again, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's that whole churn thing, It's there's business in churn, like telcos and stuff like that. So, what was I going to say? So that was that.
Yeah, so you're in that space in ISPs, right? Just comparing, earning money for referring customers. How did that business go? What were some of the big key learnings for you in that sort of market?
A few wines between now and then.
Well, what would you tell someone not to do?
Yes.
Yeah. Look, I think it was an interesting business. It did okay. I needed to, spend more time on it. But it did okay. So, a couple of people contacted me out of the blue, and a company by the name of InfoChoice, and they were an ASX listed company at the time. They were sort of ex-trucking company, like logistics and stuff like that. And they said, hey, we've got to get into the internet game, And a lot of people enter any sort of industry from, whatever angle, whatever level. If there's an opportunity there and you've got some, good business acumen and some astute skills, you go, well, shit, yeah, I could, I don't know, I could start a beer brewing company or something, but it's often a whole nother thing, just like IT is to the music industry or whatever. Jesus, lost my thought there. Anyway, so yeah,
if they contacted you out of the blue.
Yeah, and the CEO sort of contacted me, and my brother was a pretty senior consultant at Accenture, and so he was sort of there and came along to a few meetings, and they offered me a couple of $100,000 to sell it. I'd spent, apart from time, I probably spent about $10,000 cash on it, so it was, roughly 20x return, minus everything else, and at the time an $80,000-$90,000 a year job, and and I was like, you have all these grand ideas, should be going to be worth $200 million in 12 months,
Yes.
selling books out of a warehouse, What an inventive idea that is, and so you sort of, there's that sort of founder genius sort of ego, a lot of people have. It's human nature, and it's like,
I think there's a bit of, we all have big dreams, right, when you get into the space of business and what you're trying to do, but sometimes it's one of our advisors that we work with says sometimes it's good to take some money off the table, bank it, and go again, because there's no guarantees in business. It's what's on the table at the moment. So sometimes it's depending on what you love, you need to understand that too. If it's something you're not loving, maybe it is time to move out and try to do something you enjoy more. But yeah, it's all a decision at that time. But we can get greedy as a business owner. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's managing that. Yeah, right, and the right time to exit, and call it a balanced portfolio. You don't want to sort of have to walk away from the table with get knocked out of a poker game, whatever sort of game you play. And no, I agree. So he's calling me from. I didn't really want to do it. My brother's going, "You're mad, Mark," And it's like, and so he's calling me from his Posse, house or whatever. And he goes, yes, I'm just down here on the, working on the boat. I'm going, oh, that's good.
Yeah, that's nice. Right.
So it was like part ego, part, hey, you could be me, part, it was a sell to get me to sell. And he goes, why don't you come back to the table? And, he was older, and he was like in his 40s, 50s, whatever. And, he's made some money. And so it was like a different sort of dynamic. And I said, oh, look, we're talking to someone else as well. And I said, look, I'll get back in touch with you on Monday, Tuesday. It's okay. We'll speak then. And so I sort of like walk away. I've got another option. Look, maybe Monday, Tuesday. But at that point in time, I'm thinking, you're right. Take some off the table, and it's okay to feel that sort of self-preservation and wish to have a good win rather than I don't know with Magic Millions or something.
So Monday and Tuesday came around, and what was the decision you made?
I said, let's speak again, Robert. I think we might be able to do a deal here. So we sort of went in and sat down and did a deal. And I didn't want to work for them. In my heart of hearts, whatever industry you're in, you sort of know whether this business is going to do well or not. And, you got to trust your own, gut or intuition, whatever it is. And so I didn't particularly like them. I didn't particularly like them as guys or girls, and sort of culturally, like corporate culturally, you know what I mean, or whatever culturally, And I was like, I'll take the cash. It was sort of like the end of the real sort of basic sort of outcome. And that was sort of the end of that chapter. So to spend, I don't know, 14, 15 months to make 200K and sort of spend 10. It's not a bad not a bad outcome, and so so then I went and worked in digital advertising.
Taught you a bit there.
Yeah, you know what? That probably wasn't.
So that was bootstrap startup, yeah. So that was no investment. That wasn't the Red Sheriff. That was no investment. Just bootstrap the thing.
Yeah,
and that's what people need to understand. If you're going to bootstrap it, it's a lot harder to drive. When you got $1.5 million in the Red Sheriff thing, you can build a team. You can drive a lot quicker, and you can grow it quicker. So you got to make those decisions early on too, as to how you approach your scalability as a business.
I totally agree, and I think it'd be good to sort of talk about having the exit in mind up front, and that can shift as well. It could be a trade sale, list, IPO, blah blah blah. Yeah, our option 3 for an exit is an IPO. It's like, it's out of the textbook, whatever. But what were you saying before about sort of exit, or just before we were speaking about exits?
And exits, like there's things we need to consider up front when we're in business, or start shifting the way we're approaching it rather than thinking of it at the end.
Having a strategy in place, even, or a number.
So it's a strategy and what we're doing next. It's more of a strategy of how we're approaching exit and just thinking about that. A lot of businesses don't even think about that. In the tech space that are raising, yes, they're probably told what's the exit plan, but we need to really think and consider, what does that mean for you, short term, long term? Are you in this? How does that sort of play out?
Mm-hmm. I think, I agree. You can have an interesting, say, family business, and it provides for your family, and gives you a good lifestyle, and you provide value to your clients and maybe the community, whatever. But there's always layers, and it's maybe we're a nice fit for a company in Barbados who likes some sort of fasteners for boats, whatever it is, to sort of see your intrinsic value as a business strategically, economically. It's always better if it's strategic, because they're going to pay more, rather than, hey, we do we do finance, these guys do finance, they let's say they write 300 loans a year or 5,000 loans a year, it's a really easy quantum to sort of bolt that on. And it's not interesting or exciting or like really valuable. Where, Facebook buys Instagram or WhatsApp, and it's like, wow, yeah, they're all sort of saying, wow, we can do this with our audience and what have you. So finding where you strategically fit is really important. Or, maybe you're you own a winery or something, whatever the hell it is, and it's like, wow, it's cool. And I like those guys, and because it's like, wow, man, you don't have the investors or the pressure, and you sit there and have wine and events at your vineyard or whatever, and it's like, wow, no less pressure. It's like, geez.
That's our perception, though. Everything
Different kind of pressure.
Everything over the other side of the fence looks like less pressure, but you don't know. When it doesn't rain one year, or there's dry something that impacts the crop, there's a lot of pressure comes on. So it's everything's got its own pressures, and every business has got its ups, downs, left and rights. And it's just from what I've found being in it for 14, 15 years, give or take. There's always ups and downs, and it's never perfect, and you're always learning. And that's something, if you're going to jump into, especially a tech business, if you're a non-tech founder, there's a lot of learning to go through that journey, and then you need to keep evolving as a person, as a business owner. So there's no perfect business. I think it's always evolving, it's always changing. Everyone could be disrupted. That's the world we live in right now.
I hear. You reminded me to sort of also finish with something. I had a mobile travel app company for 5 years, and this is where I raised money myself. And it gave you, it was after the Bali bombings, and it gave you travel warnings. We were just sitting around at a barbecue, and you say, imagine if you get an SMS SMS warning via about a travel warning. It's like, gee, that's good. That's interesting. And, a few of the sort of other sort of business guys, sort of mates, we're just sort of kicking it around. But as an idea in itself, compared to bringing that to market and getting customers and keeping them happy, and modifications to your product and investor stuff is like a big journey. But it was cool. I had it for 5 years. Flight Centre were clients, corporate travel agencies were clients. Swinburne University, they used it for their staff. It's like we had like a dashboard. We got 20 people landing in London on Qantas flight, blah blah blah. Your hotel details in English, Chinese, nearest Australian embassy, it translated into 30 languages. This is all via SMS, before the iPhone. And we thought it was interesting. We thought it was cool. It was like, okay, so when you're in Rome and you want to order, the steak medium rare, just type and we know you're in Rome, so we had some geo-aware sort of stuff. So we assumed your default language would be Italian, and it was like, can I order the steak medium rare? And it would come back in Italian, and you go, there, señorita. No, and so it was like cool, but it was still hard. It was still hard to convince travel. Travel is an order taker industry. Our reps on the road, we're incentivizing them. For some stores, we'd have like a Hoyt's Village movie voucher sort of thing, right? And they'd really sell well whilst you were dishing out freebies, and then as soon as you stopped, it was like no sales from that store. And you ask the rep, and the rep goes back in. It's like, wow, it's almost like you got to, pay them off. It was just really sort of really sort of difficult. And there was no particular mandate. Travel agents are, aren't as educated as most, and so they tend to have a different ethical framework. They're not paid that well, and then the Covermore Insurance rep comes in, and the Covermore Insurance knew how to do this really well. So, I mean, there's a fine line between the ethics of this stuff. You'd sponsor Flight Centre parties, and get one of our reps to speak. And it was just really hard. But what we had in mind as we navigated this industry, from going from a barbecue with no real travel experience or exposure to an industry, to dealing with, the CEO of Stella that owned Harveyville Travel and Pepper's Resorts and stuff. There's some massive money in this sort of stuff. And where you fit in the technology value chain, in the marketing value chain, in an industry that doesn't generally attract, smart sort of thinkers. It's order taking. It's, a trip to Bali, and some flights and whatever. So it was hard to sort of elevate their strategic thinking. But, you can't walk into an industry and sort of say, this is how it should be done. So it was actually.
I've heard that a few times with real estate agents.
Businesses. Yeah. I think every industry has its own way of doing things, and to disrupt that, maybe that was too early at the time, right? Sometimes we can be a little bit early in industries, and sometimes timing plays a big factor in success. And to get cut through at top levels in big businesses means you're doing something right. So what from your journey across business, I'll have to cut this pretty soon, but from your journey across business, what's one thing that's seen you get the cut through at the big levels, because you've done it across multiple businesses? What do you think that you can pin that down on? Because it's something that people may struggle with, to get cut through at the corporate level, to actually get some new technology in. What's some of the things that you've learnt about that, and what have you done?
Interesting. I have sort of perhaps a few, I don't know, badges, stripes, because of what I've done, not particularly entertainment, but, Red Sheriff or whatever, and people I know that know someone, so you can get that sort of intro. Like in the last...
It's a network.
Yeah. In the last, say, couple of months, I've had discussions with the CEO of Southern Cross Austereo, Fox FM, to the CEO of ARN, which is Australian Radio Network, Kiss FM, Gold FM, about a music tech thing. And so I can... It's interesting, I can, break down the door, get a meeting, and but then the intricacies of their world and sort of, hey, look, I really want to talk about this and how this will be great for you, rather than really understand the usual stuff, understanding their world and how can we solve a problem. I pissed Kieran off, the CEO of ARN, a couple of months ago.
Did you?
I'm asking the guy.
Okay.
He goes, yes, we want to. I want to talk about doing, something about this in November. So, it was.
So there's a fine balance there too, because it's about building relationships, understanding their world. But I think you have to put yourself out there, right? If you're going to grow a business in a big way, you're really going to have to put yourself out there, and sales and marketing is one of the key things here. So, it's really important that you build your network as you've done in your past.
Yeah, and then be really about solving people's problems, and particularly in the media, they're very unwilling to tell you strategically about their business. It's more cutthroat than the advertising world, and it's a secret club.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay.
And we can't tell you about strategy, but I'm trying to solve a problem here. You like what we're doing, and it's like that sort of thing.
That would make it difficult.
They have to play ball too.
Yeah. How about we play charades? Is your audio strategy about this? Yes. And it's like, and sometimes, and depending on the relationship and who you're talking to, and the level of seniority and what sort of rapport you build, it's like, how can I help you? It was like, let's not stuff around. Hey, it sounds good. Thanks, Andrew and Anthony. It's pleasure to talk war stories.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.